Welcome back to ConFusion, Still Confusing, a virtual component of ConFusion, a science fiction and fantasy convention in Novi, Michigan. You can find the 2027 cons information at 2027.confusionsf.org. Today's discussion is the evolution of word count in science fiction and fantasy novels by Ray Tabler and Denver Wilson.
Hello, this is Ray Tabler. I'm a science fiction author here today with Denver Wilson, who's also a science fiction author. And today we're going to talk about how novel lengths have varied over the years. Denver and I both live in mid Michigan, and I've published 4 novels, all what I call light, humorous, upbeat science fiction. And Denver, why don't you talk a minute about your
Well, I've
work?
published 2 novels so far, and I'm working on my third, almost done with my third. But basically, it's spirit versus science, and has some supernatural elements in it. The first one, The Secret of the Lost Pyramid, worked on it for 20 years. You'll see it in the background behind me. It's a very thick book, 740 pages, 3 books in one. But my second book is a very short book. It's only 213 pages. And this came about 10 years in this and about 20 years on this. So as things go by, it seems like books are getting thinner and thinner, shorter and shorter word count. Matter of fact, the next novel is going to be a lot of single line sentences. But, like in the old days when people first started writing novels, they would spend 150 pages just doing backstory that nobody complained about because they were interested. It was new to them. But today, readers have gotten more sophisticated, and they want to be captured in the first 3 pages, or they're too busy to keep going. They'll find another book that's more interesting. So you really have to learn how to entice them, which is kind of a little bit tricky sometimes, because you want to lay out the story in a certain way, but yet you don't want to overdo it. Like I say, 150 pages of backstory. You want to capture them right away and get them interested in your main characters, because let's face it, if they're not interested in your main characters, they're not going to keep turning pages. Back to you, Ray.
I got into this subject because I struggle to write long novels. Typically, my novels are like 50 or 60,000 words, although I have written a couple at 70,000 and one at over 100,000. But I wondered how have novel lengths varied over the years. So I went and did some work, and I've got a few slides to show you. Let's see here. I am trying to. Oh, okay. I am. Here we go. And there's just 4 slides I want to go through with graphs. So the first one is, I was looking around online and I found an article about word counts of most read books. So this is someone's list of most read books over the past couple of 100 years, and what those word counts were. And what occurred to me is, what jumped out at me is, novels used to be longer, and then they got shorter, and then they got longer again. And the minimum point seemed to be around 1920 to 1925. And for some reason, the conditions, the times, really liked short books. So I said, okay, well, those are most read books. And these are books, the way I think of it, as books that your English literature teacher might assign for you to read. So I said, I wonder what bestsellers would look like in a similar graph. So I went and I looked on the Publishers Weekly website, and they have bestsellers listed for at least back to 1900. and what those page lengths and word counts were. And there's a whole lot of bestsellers. So what I did is I took the 10 bestsellers every 5 years. So this is a sampling of the data, and I graphed those up. And so the dots here are raw word counts, and then the two lines are a median in green and an average in orange. And it seems to show kind of a similar story that right around 1920, there was a minimum word count. I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100,000 words. And then they started getting longer. Books started getting longer. Maybe dropped again in around 1960, but then went up again lately around 2000. And then since we got some later data, it appears that book lengths are going back down again. And we can talk about why that might be. Is this the ebook and internet influence and the shortening of attention spans? I don't know. Then I said, well, let's look at science fiction, since that's what I'm most interested in. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a composite of the last two graphs, and the data does seem to overlay each other. So most reads and bestsellers, they do sort of agree. I was curious about that.
Ray,
And then I said,
quick
yes,
question. Are you
sure.
still on the first slide? Because I only see the first slide.
Oh my goodness. Hold on just a second here. You only see the first slide.
There you go. Now we're on the second slide.
Now we're on the second slide. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, so this is bestseller word count from the Publishers Weekly data. And like I said, books were longer, got shorter, got longer, got a little shorter, then got a lot longer, and they seem to be getting shorter since about 1990. Okay, and Goodbye, Mr. Chips was the shortest at like 12,500 words, and a book named Texas by James Mitchell was the longest at like 380,000 words. Okay. Are we still on the same graph, or did we
You switch to a word count by popular books? It shows red and blue dots.
Okay, great. So this is the last two graphs combined to see what the comparison of those books were, or book lengths were, and they seem to sort of agree. And then I said, okay, let's look at science fiction, because that's what I'm most interested in. And so I found a website that listed the top 10 science fiction authors of all time. You may agree, you may disagree with this list. I just wanted a list to work from. So, there's Asimov, Heinlein, all these people. And this is color coded, but I just basically want to look at the overall lengths. And it shows the same trend as the last couple of graphs, last 2 or 3 graphs, which was books were shorter, got way longer, got shorter in the 20s into the 40s, and then got longer and maybe getting shorter these days. Interestingly, it looks like science fiction, the minimum is lagging about 20 years behind what general fiction is. But it's hard to tell because almost all of this data is just from one author, H.G. Wells.
Yeah, but he was great.
He was great, and he wrote a lot of books, but he may not be representative of what was happening because, he got famous and he could write pretty much whatever length he wanted to. And I was, and this is sort of at the inception of science fiction. So it may have been overly influenced by magazine serialized novels. So here's all this data, and I guess we can discuss that. What do you think about this, Denver?
Well,
Would you like me to go back to
I've read quite a few of those authors.
Yes.
A few I haven't, but
Uh-huh.
I've read Asimov a lot, Heinlein a lot, a little bit of Dick. Wells a little bit, Bradbury a lot, McCaffrey a lot. Niven, I
Mhm.
read a lot of his stuff. I loved his stuff. Have you
Yes,
read
myself and
Niven? Have you read
oh
Niven,
yeah, I
Ray?
love him. Yeah,
The Ring World one, that was awesome. That
yes, it
was
was.
just a great idea. And to come up with that, I have no idea how he come up with that, but that was really cool.
Yeah, really.
Poll, I seems familiar, but this doesn't jog my mind. I can't remember any Poll books.
Frederick Pohl. He wrote some books about the. Trying to remember books about a um, an alien space station, an abandoned alien station discovered in the outer solar system with ships, and people could get on them, and the ships would take them to other stars, but they didn't have any control of where they went.
Hmm.
Gateway, that was it. Gateway. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you already read any McCaffrey?
I have read some of hers. Yes.
The Ship That Sings, about the it was basically early AI. It was a woman AI that ran the ship, but it was just like in the computer. You remember that
Uh-huh.
story, The Ship That Sings?
I don't
And
think I ever read that one. I did read. Isn't she the one that wrote
Pern series, the
the
Dragon
Pern series? Yes, I
Dragon
remember that.
Riders of Pern. Yeah,
Dragon Riders of Pern. Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
read all those. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite book you wrote, Ray?
The book I wrote,
Favorite one?
the one I wrote.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, my favorite is my latest one called the Diesel Powered Starship, which
That's
is
quite a
about
clever concept.
yes, it's about a faster than light star drive that won't tolerate an electrical circuit. So people have to can go to other stars, but they have to leave electricity behind. So
Whoa,
that's out on the market right now.
that's pretty
Uh,
strange.
I had a lot of fun writing it.
What were you smoking when you wrote that?
Oh,
Oh,
I might have been drinking a few beers, but otherwise,
yeah.
yeah. Um, so I don't know here. What? Let me stop sharing. Whoops. Okay, these are. Oh, this is the last slide. Is just the um, references where I got the data from, and then I've also written several Substack posts uh, where you can find more verbiage about these graphs.
Would you explain what a Substack is to people who don't know?
Oh, Substack is a website that you can post your writing on, and if people want to, they can pay you to read it, or you can keep it free. I'm keeping mine free right now, and I post fiction on Tuesdays and essays on Thursdays, and I'm using it to build readership. And this is pretty. I think of it as going to the mental gym once a week. It's kind of like publishing your own magazine. So it takes a little bit of discipline to feed that
So you,
hungry beast.
so you write a short story every week for this?
Well, actually, what I've been doing is serializing other novels. So
Okay.
I've completed two serialized novels on Substack, and they're available now. And I'm about halfway through a third, um, which is a bit of a high wire act, uh, serializing a novel as you write it. So I would encourage people to check it out. Um, what are your novels about, Denver?
Well, Second World is a shorter novel. Like I said, it's about 215 pages. And I
Mhm.
did the cover. I created the cover. I, uh, I I majored in art in college, and I worked in engineering all my life. Figure that one out. But um, it's about a police detective in LA whose young 7-year-old daughter is kidnapped by a reptilian alien in a UFO. How do you get your child back from a reptile alien in a UFO? So basically, it's about him hunting and finding and saving his child. But it's got some really strange twists to it. Um, I don't want to get too detailed because I'll give away the story. But I did a lot of inner research, um, shall I say, our emotional attachment to our children. Um, that's what's driving him through the story. And basically, as I was mentioning to you one time we got together to talk, Ray, uh, I don't care what kind of story you're writing, adventure, romance, comedy, science fiction, it boils down to relationship between people. Some good, some bad, some evil, some positive, but it's all about relationships. And if you can throw in some exciting adventure and some strange scientific twists, more the better, My first book, which I put a lot of time into, 20 years, rewrote it 19 times. Um, I I started out. This is a book about a man who believes in science, and anything spiritual he discounts as a myth. And basically, it's similar to like an Indiana Jones adventure. It's called The Secret of the Lost Pyramid. It's available on our Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and a few other places. One of my favorites, thrift books. Anyway, it all takes place on the moon about 50 years from now, and they're surveying the moon for its mineral wealth. The corporations and companies and governments on Earth are dividing up the moon, basically. And the surveyors find this little black pyramid about an inch high sticking out of the dust of the moon, but it's perfect. And they uncover it, and it's like 3,000 feet high, and it's made of this black marble that they can't scratch with lasers or drills or anything. And on the bottom, one side, they find these hieroglyphs. And they send these crew of experts up, and they're trying to decipher this. And the heroine in the story is one of the nurses at the moon base. And because she studied Latin in college to learn for medicine, she's put on this crew to decipher this hidden message. And in the process, everybody else at the deciphering table takes a break, and she's left alone. At the very same time, there's an accident that is propagated, whatever the word is, made by there's two types of demons in the story. There's spiritual demons and physical demons. Physical demons are trapped in the pyramid, and the spiritual demons are on the outside trying to get them out. And what they do is they rig up this accident. They create this accident so that it will break the force field on this pyramid, allowing the door to open, the portal to open, and three of the worst ones get out. And when this happens, the pyramid becomes transparent, and she can see these 10,000 demons inside this pyramid, and they're all looking at her like she's bird food. And of course, she's freaked out, and she stumbles back and knocks over the computers at the table and whatnot. But she looks up, and the hieroglyphs change to Latin, which she can read. Now, remember, everybody else has gone away. They're taking a break. And she reads this message, and it's basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically a message: bad juju don't touch. In other words, it's a message from God saying, they're evil in here and leave them alone, And she tries to tell the people that she works with, and they laugh at her and discount her as she's loony or whatever. And so she gets angry and decides to quit and leave, go back to Earth. And she wants her boyfriend, newly found boyfriend, one of the surveyors, Cody, to go with her. And he's kind of drawn, he loves her very much, but he is kind of, this is a perfect job I've always wanted, and I don't know if I really want to leave. And he's having this inner struggle, but eventually he goes with her. And but before they leave, they're in her apartment on the moon base. This angel appears in the middle of the dining room table and gives them, I want you to go to Earth and tell everybody about what you've seen, and disappears. And then the hero, Cody, comes in, and she tells him about it, and he's kind of like, are you crazy or what? Anyway, throughout the story, the angels are trying to help them without too much intervention. And the demons, of course, are trying to stop them with lots of intervention. And the demons, they do all kinds of nasty things, but it makes it fun and exciting. lots of adventure, and they meet some crazy people on their way. Um, there's they get some help from a few characters that are when I come up with this idea, I was working for a civil engineering firm, and this is the days before computers. I was bent over a drawing board pushing a pencil for hours on end. Okay. And I got this idea for the story, and I grabbed my yellow sticky pads. Okay, there we go. Anyway, I'd write down a little idea and I'd shove it in my desk drawer in a file. And after about 6 months, I took all these yellow sticky pads home and I laid them out on the kitchen table, and I kind of created this loose plot. And then I started working on it. And I started this as longhand. I'd lay on my belly on my bed on Saturday mornings and write longhand. And then I was able to get a word processor that did only one word of text at a time, one line of text at a time. Can you imagine how difficult that was? And we're talking late 80s. And then eventually I got WordPerfect, which was an early word processing program, and that changed everything. But did a lot of research.
How long are your books in terms of pages of word count?
Oh, this one's 730 pages. I would guess probably over 100,000 words, but I'm not sure. I haven't counted them.
Okay.
And this one, like I said, is only 213 pages, and my guess is probably 60,000 words.
Okay. So you and I are at opposite ends of this word count novel length spectrum.
Well, my next book is going to be probably even shorter word counts. My friends joke with me, if this took 20 years and this took 10 years, what's the next one I'm going to take? Pretty soon I'll be writing pamphlets.
Yeah. Well, that may not be a bad thing, because supposedly, the data shows that it might have peaked already, and books might be getting shorter. And I wonder if that is because of people reading ebooks and online.
I'm sure it is.
And their shorter attention spans. But then I was just reading online the other day about someone explaining Kindle Unlimited, and the author is paid by the page read. So it sort of incentivizes writing longer and longer books, because the more pages that are read, the more the author gets paid. What do you think? Do you have any experience with that?
Well, I wanted to throw in something. Just a thought appeared when you were talking about it, is we have a lot more interferences now. The early books, television wasn't around, and then, it was mainly radio, and people had a lot more time to read, And then as time has progressed, we have so much going on anymore. Internet, 24-hour news, internet is just, it's very powerful, and it's a wonderful resource, but it's also a big time consumer. I hate to tell you how much time I spend on my tablet doing research. It's just insane. I do love to read, and I do prefer a hard book, although I have a Kindle and I've read from that too. But I do prefer the old way. I'm just, old fashioned, I guess. I like to have the feel of the book and everything, and be able to put a marker in there and say I stopped here. Anyway, with this automation of writing coming up, it's getting easier and easier to produce a novel, and I don't think I think a lot of people have, like you say, shorter attention spans. They want to write a quick book. They don't want to spend a lot of time on it. They want the computer to do it for them, and they want to be done in a week.
It seems to me that AI does write long, and they keep repeating that. It keeps repeating itself, keeps hitting the same discussion points over and over. Have you noticed that?
Well, not so much. What I notice is it keeps changing things. It can't hardly stay. It can't it drifts a lot. It can't hardly stay on the storyline. If you're working on a storyline and then you ask AI to help you, it'll slightly try to change it, and maybe bring in a new character or whatever. And you're going, wait a minute, this is not what I wanted. So you gotta stay on top of it. You can't let it get too far along. you got to do it chapter by chapter and not the whole book, you know.
All right. Well, it's interesting because it seems to me that we've reached a peak in word count, novel lengths, and it looks like we're starting to head back down. The whole thing seems to be cyclical, and I can't really tell uh, what factors include or will control it. Uh, I mean, it's editors looking for a certain novel length that they think they can sell, but we have less and less influence from editors as people start to publish their own, not self-publish and uh, publish online with print on demand. Um, but fantasy and science fiction tends to want to be longer, I think.
That's
What
true.
what are your thoughts about that, Denver?
Well, I think people are distracted a lot now. They don't seem to have as much time. Like I said, they're constantly being bombarded by 24-hour news, internet. Um, there's just everywhere we turn, we're being inundated by the world. And a
Mhm.
lot of people, it's all about what you choose to emphasize. But I think there's some people who love reading purely because when you read a book, it happens in here. Your imagination fills in everything. But when you see it or hear it, it takes away that imagination part. And I think
Mhm.
that imagination is very important. What is life without mystery and imagination? It's boring. I'm sorry. It's just work, 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 eat, sleep, sleep, sleep. So I that's kind of why I like the old style books, But like I said, I do have a Kindle and I do like to read with it, but I prefer the old physical book that I can pick up. Well, it's hard to understand because as the world gets more and more evolved, scientific technology breakthroughs, people start to change too. They rely on the science and everything to take care of everything for them. And in the old days, you had to chop wood and carry water and create your own food. And now it's all just go to the grocery store and boom, it's there. And the same thing with entertainment. I think, like I said, when you read a book and the author explains the emotion of the character and a little bit of physical description, you fill in the rest. And that gets back to that relationship thing between story and the storyteller and the reader. You just can't replace that. You can't automate that. Anyway, back to you, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, where can we find your books,
Oh, the
Denver?
typical places. Amazon published The Second World, the police detective who has to fight with reptilian aliens to get his daughter back. And The Secret of the Lost Pyramid is Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Drift Books, lots of places actually. It's overseas in a lot of places now too. Um, I would really like to see this one become a movie because with the special effects they can do today, it would just be incredible. The angels and demons have these glowing swords, and it's just like Star Wars. But there's lots of twists and turns, and it is a lot of work went into this, a lot of research. Used to haunt the library. You remember what the library is? Nowadays, we just don't look up everything on the internet and know in 5 minutes. But back then, you had to go to the library and read books. And it was just amazing how I would go to the library and I look for a certain book. Say, I'm writing a section where they're crossing the Sahara Desert. So I want to find a book on the Sahara Desert. But I stumble across a book on sword fighting, and I'm going, So I read this book on sword fighting because the angels and demons are fighting with swords, and I want to make it believable. So I picked up some of the terms and the actions of sword fighting, but I would never go out of my way to read a book on sword fighting. I'm sorry, I'm just not that interested. But because I was writing this book, I read the book on sword fighting, and that just goes for what's the word? Serendipity. You ever heard of that? Like, for example, in my book, The Secret of the Lost Pyramid, the hero and his party are crossing the Sahara Desert on camels, and they come across a what do you call those? A place for water, oasis. And the hero is swimming in the oasis, and some of the enemy sneak up and they throw a bomb in the oasis, and it blows up, and he's sucked down into this underground river that goes along the Sahara Desert all the way to Egypt. Now, I know that was just kind of my sci-fi fantasy storytelling, but in this book, I'm looking through at the library on the Sahara Desert. I read there are these giant underground long rivers underneath the Sahara Desert. I'm going, what? Did I know that subconsciously? But it freaked me out because I didn't know that. And here I find it in book in the library. So anyway, go to the library because you wander around, you pick up other books that you're not normally interested in, and maybe you'll find something that gets you going, Anyway, Ray, it's a pleasure. And tell us where we can find your books.
Okay, well, I have 4 traditionally published novels, A Grand Imperial War and A Grand Imperial Heir, or a 2-book series. My first 2 books, and they are I like to call them a light space opera, as if Gilbert and Sullivan wrote and staged a space opera. The 3rd book is called Fool's Paradise. It's about an interstellar secret agent gets sent to an anarchic planet to pick up something of value. Turns out to be a 14-year-old girl. He goes off script and trouble follows.
Oh, I love it so far.
And then my latest published novel is The Diesel-Powered Starship, about going to other stars, but you have to leave electricity behind. And then I've serialized 2 novels on Substack. The first is called Containment Protocol, which is tanks versus dinosaurs. What's not to love? The next completed novel is called Planets for Sale. It's about a con man who is scamming his way across the galaxy, one shady real estate deal after another. And the one that's on Substack being currently serialized is called The School of Magical Engineering. It's about a wizard who accidentally sucks a Texan cowboy named Bubba into his magical realm by accident. And you'll just have to tune in and see what happens there.
Yes. It'd be fun to work on a story together sometime,
I'd like that, Denver.
I was telling you about a guy I was doing some research on, and I hope maybe you checked him out because he's got me stimulated thinking about ideas too. So anyway, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. I'm sorry. My publisher is History of Books, and you can go to their website. You can find me on Amazon.com. You can go to my website, raytabler.com. And then you probably can find my Substack page. I forget what the URL is, but if you go to Substack and search for Ray Tabler or just Google Ray Tabler Substack, you can find it there.
Very good, Ray. Well, I wish you the best in your writing, and it'd be fun to get together with you soon.
Thank you very much, Denver.
Take care.
Talk to you later.
Thank you very much to Ray and Denver for this amazing discussion. Again, you can see more discussions like this at ConFusion in Novi, Michigan, and all our information is at 2027.confutionsf.org.